been seeing a bunch of the onStep functions with movement and rotating and counting things and all sorts of stuff. And I hope you can start to see the power that we've got there. And before you start going to make all sorts of cool, crazy stuff, there's, I guess, just a way of thinking about how you move things that's probably worth considering. So let's talk about it, right? Let's start by just making a simple little program where I have my character, I don't want to type that much, player equals, and it'll be a circle, and we'll start at 200, 200, and radius of 20, and I don't know why I did that. And what we'll do is we will do def on step, and from here, we're going to just make the circle move, right? So I'm going to say the player dot center x plus equals 10. And maybe that's too much. I think 5 is fast enough. And the player starts moving to the right. Great. We're happy with that. Maybe we want to do some kind of thing where and then I guess this is kind of the issue, right? If I just think of it this way, if I want to test if I'm hitting a key and then make the player move around, right? Like up and they'll start moving, just flying up, and then left and they start flying left. Sorry, that it gets, the display is weird. Or down and they start flying down. But here, the onStep function isn't holding on to a key. So maybe I can make some object up here, a bunch of global variables that check on key press what the last key that I pressed was and do all that. And that's actually a fine way to do it, and you could do it that way. But the method that I'm going to show you, or the way to conceptualize of dealing with speed and velocity and acceleration, is a little bit, I think, has a little broader way of dealing with that. So if you're confused, you don't know what I'm talking about, that's fine. Let's get to actually doing it and you can start to see why, right? So the idea is, at least for right now, I want to make a program that when I press up, down, left, or right, the player will just kind of follow the direction that I last told it to go, up, down, left, or right. The issue right now is onStep can't check what key I just pressed because it just gets called automatically. It doesn't wait until I press a key. So I guess I could say, all right, well, def on key press, and then I can, give it the key, and then say if the key equals up, I want to move up. But how do I do that, right? I suppose I could solve my whole issue just by using on key holds, but shut up, you're too smart. I'm trying to show something else, and this is just the way that I'm showing it. So I press the up key. I want to start moving up, or moving right, or moving left. But right now, onStep isn't connected there. So here's what we're going to do. Is I'm going to give the player a x velocity and a y velocity. In the notes, they say dx because that's the change in x, delta x. You'll see this in math and stuff like that. Maybe by geometry you might start seeing it. I mean, I guess you technically could see dx over dy or dy over dx in like algebra 1, right? Or even pre-algebra 1. For getting the slope of things. So anyways, we'll do this. Rate of change. We have an x change that the player is experiencing. And the player dot dy, now we have, and I guess it's going to start off default as not moving, right? So there's no change in their x, there's no change in their y. And from here, what I'm going to do is set the player dot center x on every step to add the change in x that I want. And the dx, if that's confusing you a little bit, maybe you want to be calling this like velocity x and velocity y. This is just how fast it's moving in the x and the y direction. The issue with velocity x and y, it's a lot more to type. So that's why we're choosing dx and dy. All that's saying is just you're changing the x or you're changing the y. And then similarly, I can always be changing the players.center y to be equal to plus equal to my change in y. And right now, let's just comment this out and pass this function. Right now, we have a circle in the middle. It does nothing. What? Oh, whoops. I can't do player.center x equals dx. I have to do player.dx and player.dy. And now we're feeling better. There's no error. Great. Now what we can do, since the player is always reacting to its change in x or its change in y, and right now it's 0, so it's not moving, if I wanted to, I could say, oh, let's make it -5, and now you'll see the player start to move to the left, right? But instead of that, what I'll do is I'll give the controls to the user by saying, okay, here on key press, if I press up, I want to move up. So I'm going to set the player's y velocity, the player.dy, equal to -5. And I'll do the same thing if the key was down. Well, then I'll set the player.dy equal to +5. Notice, oh, I don't even need to say +5. I can just say 5. Notice I'm not doing plus equals. The plus equals happens over here and is always happening. Over here, I'm just setting the player's y velocity either negative to start moving up or positive to start moving down. Whoops, what did I do? And then I can continue this over here by checking the left key. Oh my goodness, left. And we'll be setting left would be player.dx -5. So I'll copy the dy -5 and just switch it to dx. And then over here, I guess we can copy, I guess this might be the closest way to copy it. And again, copying, dangerous game that I'm playing over there. Right, the dx. And so now, player's not moving, but if I press to the right, we're moving right. If I press down, uh-oh. Okay, now it's moving diagonally. I love that I had that issue. So the issue is that I'm never resetting. Right? Like, when I say I'm going left to right, I don't change the y. So the y velocity is still there. So let's pause this. And over here for each of these, if I want to move just straight up, I should also set the player's x velocity to 0. So now I'm only moving up and I'm not moving diagonally. Right? Because if you're making your x and y, let's comment all of this out over here. I guess I'll just cut and paste it for a second. If we cut this all out, if I'm moving just the x, of course I'm moving to the right only. If I'm moving, or, you know, make it negative, now I'm moving to the left, right? But only to the left. If I change just the y to be, let's say we're moving 5 in the y, now we're going to be moving only down because it's a positive y. Switch that to a -5y, now we're moving only up. But if I have both of them going, well, now I'm going to be going both up every step and to the right every step, and the right is that way on your screen. So we'll start moving diagonally, right? And the issue that we had is before, when I pressed up, I started going up, and that was great. But then when I pressed down, I started going down. I reset my velocity to be going straight down. But when I pressed left or right, that up or down, it was still there, so I was moving up, and now I started moving also to the side, so I started going diagonally. To fix that, if I only want to be moving in, like, you know, north, south, east, west directions, anytime I change a direction, I'm just going to make sure I reset the orthogonal, that's a vocabulary word for you, value to 0. Orthogonal just means like at right angles, but in 3D space, basically. And similarly here, I'll set the y velocities to 0 so that I only move left or right. And now we got a nice little program that will, oh, oops, it started off moving diagonally because I didn't start off at 0 here. So now we have a little program that starts at 0. When I click left, I start going left. When I click up, I start going up. I click right, I start going right. Click down, and we can go all sorts of places, and that is pretty cool, I would say. This video is already long enough, and I wanted to talk about, like, you must be thinking, oh, okay, but couldn't you just hold the key down And my answer to you is, well, what if I don't want to hold the key down? What if I want to just press the key and have my character move one direction, or another? And this is the only way to do it, is by using onStep. But I think in the next video, we're going to start talking about, okay, this is velocity. Velocity means the speed that a thing is moving, the amount of distance a thing is moving in any set amount of time. And once we're dealing with velocity, we can start also thinking about, here, we're just moving the player by their velocity every step. But if I change the velocity during step, or maybe during hold, now I'm adding acceleration into the mix, and we can do all sorts of like funky stuff there. Maybe I'll make a little asteroids game or something like that by using on key holds. I guess I could just also do with on key press and on key release instead. Anyways, that's going to be for the next video, because this is already enough. Hopefully you get, let's summarize the video. Instead of just changing the center x plus equals 5 or minus equals 5 in the step function itself, this idea, and we'll see in future videos, of giving each object that you want to be moving a custom property for its change in x during a given frame and its change in y during a given frame, allows us to do all sorts of things. Allows us to move the player around, react to player input, and then have it, change in the step. I guess there's one other thing I'll show here, because the other thing is going to get funkier. But one thing that's really valuable about this, which is super cool, is I have a dx and a dy. Let's say I'm going to check. Let's reverse it. I'm going to say elif the key equals, let's say R for reverse. I think we're getting too close to their notes, but, it's kind of weird. Actually, I guess I'll say X, and I want to reverse my X direction. So this would be to reverse X direction. And then I'll make another elif. If the key was Y, we'll reverse the Y direction. Watch this. This is another reason why using this is pretty cool. Is what I can do, if I want to reverse the player's X direction, I'll press the X key, and I can set the player's dx, so delta x, change in x, velocity in the x direction, equal to the negative of its current dx. Or, similarly, I could do that for the y's. And this is not going to be an absolute value type of situation where no matter what I'm setting it to negative. If the player's dx is currently negative, if they're moving to the, all right, let's use up and down because my screen left and right's weird. If the, except the y's are kind of backwards too. If the player's, we'll use the x. If the player is going to, this is left on the screen, I believe, to the left, its current x velocity is negative. Let's say negative 5, like we just pressed the left arrow key. If I press x, instead of just setting it equal to 5, I can set the delta x equal to itself, but the negative version of itself. And if I'm going to the left and I've got negative 5, well, negative 5 turns to positive 5, so it'll reverse and switch around. And that's kind of neat. So let's see if this actually works. Huh? Oh, double equals. Oh my goodness. Okay. 8. Oh, colon. Everyone makes mistakes, right? So we're going left, right, up, and down, right? Blah, 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 blah. Let's go far to the left, and now we're going to go to the right. And if I now hit the X key, it does reverse it. Which doesn't look very different to you because you can't tell which button I'm pressing, but it did work. And if I'm going down and I press the Y key, it reverses. And I press the Y key again, and it reverses. And so that's just another sample case of how this velocity thing works and can be helpful. This is way cooler. You can take whatever the velocity was before and reverse it just by saying, hey, whatever I'm going to do to reverse the velocity, I'm just going to set it to whatever its current velocity was equal to its negative self. Or sorry, what this is I'm going to set the velocity to the negative version of what it currently is. Maybe that's confusing, but I don't care. This video is long enough. See you next time.